What's going on, y'all? It's LJ. And what did Def Leppard, Deep Purple, King Diamond, Hellstar, Fates Warning, and more all have in common? They're all part of rock and metal Addicts! Indeed, time for another rock and metal update. And this is just a small sampling of a stack of finds that have come in over the past couple of years, like usual, but those that have only recently found the time to get out of the inbox and onto the turntable. It's the holidays, y'all. It is what it is. Things just fall behind. Speaking of that, I hope everybody had an absolutely fantastic holiday and a great new year as well, and I hope your 2017 is off to a great start. But speaking of starting, we need to start somewhere. So let's start with 1984, and this is the debut album from Hellstar. Are you familiar with this album? Are you familiar with Hellstar? Are you a fan of power metal? If you answered yes to that last question, you need this record. James Rivera, the lead singer, man, his wailing vocals, the solos, just the whole vibe. Now, it's textbook classic heavy metal. But then, cutting edge like nothing heard before, and busy carving out this amazing new path along with bands like Metal Church and Leech Lord and Agent Steel and others, and what would eventually become known as US power metal. This is a reissue on Flogger Records. You may have seen this record with a different cover, kind of like a phantasm and a red cloak hanging here. And they used this cover, which I believe is the US one, for the reissue. This sounds absolutely amazing. Flogger killed it. And it packs some raw tracks from the band's demo the year before in 1983. Now, those few demo tracks are definitely cassette quality. The rest of the album sounds amazing, but man, if you grew up at the time and you remember tape trading, underground tape trading, or even your own low-quality, lo-fi cassette copies, then you know that's what makes them sound so perfect. It just is what it is. Absolutely love this stuff. If you're not familiar with this, I highly suggest you check out a track called The Shadows of Iga here on YouTube, and then prepare to go online or hit your favorite shop and pick yourself up a copy. From 1985, speaking of US power metal, from Fates Warning, here is The Spectre Within. Now, the first three albums from Fates Warning, of which this is the second, are unparalleled as far as power metal goes. Once you're hooked on Hellstar, Crimson Glory, Queensryche, Agent Steel, all those bands, finding your way into Fates Warning was inevitable at the time. It just beckoned you. This is an insanely solid reissue from Metal Blade that I grabbed maybe a year ago. And it gives my original pressing its first sigh, its first breath of relief in years. Absolutely loved that album. Every bit as epic as their classic debut, Night on Brocken from the year before, or even the follow-up, Awaken the Guardian, John Arch's pipes, they soar to almost inhuman levels. Echoing, of course, anybody that's familiar with it, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden in tone. Every track is classic. The twin leads attack without warning, and man, the artwork just says it all. End of story. No power metal in the next one, but you can't get more classic than Kiss. From 1976, this is Kiss, the original. This was released just months after Destroyer set Kissteria ablaze. Now, the originals contains the first three Kiss studio albums. Self-titled, Hotter Than Hell, and Dressed to Kill. Now, while I have a Canadian copy of this, which has significantly different packaging elements, this is the first US pressing I've ever owned of this. They just don't turn up in nice shape, and they simply just don't turn up anymore, period, let alone in an unbelievable condition like this copy. Still complete with a 16-page booklet and inner sleeves, which duplicate the original album covers, this one is missing only the Kiss Army sticker and the 6 trading cards, which were in it when it was new. Like the cover states, it's the album or the albums that touched off a rock and roll explosion. Hey, when you're right, you're right. We'll start with the back cover of this one. Who knows what that is? Who can identify it? Can you identify that? Do you know what that is? You're absolutely right. That is 3 grown men in bathrobes. From 1976, this is Rush's 2112. I'm actually showing Rush's 2112. Yes, I am. And there's a couple more albums in this update that I'm going to show that you'll say, didn't you already own those? And the answer is yes, I did. Now, for sake of full transparency, because full transparency is important, I'm honestly completely tired of the 2112 suite, which makes up all of side 1. But I'm tired of it because of over immersion, which is a testament to how damn good the thing actually is. Now, this is not a 2112 album review. If it was, I'd be reminding y'all that the song Tears is the real weak spot on this album, and the overlooked Alex Life's and pen cut Lessons on side 2 is the real hidden gem. But what this is a scarce, original West German pressing where it was only ever pressed once, hence the first pressing. The Rush geek in me had to have it. It doesn't matter how many Canadian or US pressings or otherwise are already on the shelf, because they happily welcomed this one to join them. And it's good company. And yeah, I played it, 2112 suite and all. I put myself through it, and I have to admit, it sounds absolutely fantastic. Didn't know what I was getting into, didn't know if it was going to have this amazing sound that would open my ears to it again. It sounds every bit as good as the US or Canadian pressings, and again, it's the Rush geek in me, y'all. I didn't have a West German pressing, I do now. Next up from 2002, it's an album that has eluded me for a long time, and it took a while to finally add to the collection, but it is Abigail 2 from How can you go wrong? 15 long years after the release of the now classic Abigail, King Diamond returned to complete the tale. This was reissued in 2012 by Metal Blade, and like many of them, they tend to be European only and tricky to track down. It's a 2 LP set and it sounds fantastic. If you don't already dig, this isn't going to do anything to convert you. And as far as his later albums go, this was never at the top of my personal favorites, but it's still an absolutely excellent album that inverts all of the King Diamond crosses, from vocals to Andy LaRocque's leads. It's full of atmosphere, and again, it's one of the only couple that I was missing on vinyl. We're just down to 1 or 2 now. We're edging towards completion, and I gotta be honest with you, although I've owned it on CD for more than a decade, spinning it on vinyl somehow just does it, and I'm finally really starting to connect with this one. Absolutely love it. Next out of the gate from 1980 and 1981 respectively, here is Def Leppard's debut, On Through the Night, and follow-up, High and Dry. Now, every so often, yes, I already own these, but now every so often, see, there's just this 1-2 punch. Albums that just go together. Even more rare, there are bands' debuts and follow-ups that they just become a combination. And in these 2 albums, they're just that. Now, I've owned these since the early 80s, and man, they're just 2 albums that I can never get enough of. 2 albums that just, you can't spin them without spinning the other. You know, it's a lot like maybe Iron Maiden's debut and Killers. For me, I can't spin one without spinning the other, and so they always spin back to back. And it's an experience that I actually look forward to. It just, man, you know, Def Leppard's debut and the follow-up, they're just perfect. With Pete Willis on guitar, the Leps had this raw, rough, real sound, just rough around the edges. It was a new wave of British heavy metal vibe that vanished the second that Pete Willis left, and then the slide downhill into melodic pop rock was set into effect. I grabbed these because they were in great shape. They're early pressings, the price was right, and did I mention it's just not possible to own enough copy of these 2 records? And if you're not familiar with either, you're really selling yourself short. They're not difficult to find. They're not difficult to find in great shape. Most of them are master disc pressings. And On Through the Night, this one actually happened to be an RCA Music Club pressing from the early 80s, which I didn't have to have, but, well, yeah, I did. It's all about the cover art. From 1985, here is Iron Angel's debut, Hellish Crossfire. Study this. Study this. Demons, dragons, swords, wings, fire, and nipples. And we've not even moved beyond the cover. Already legendary in the tape trading scene from the early 80s, Iron Angel's debut is a freaking classic, built on a foundation of Judas Priest and Accept at their absolute heaviest, ratcheting up the intensity to 100 and laying the groundwork for German thrash and speed metal. This is a heavy, dark, long-time favorite, and there was nothing Iron Angel did before or after this that sounded quite like it. Packed to the point of congestion, with riffs, solos, and pounding drums, track after killer track. It's straight to the point, sinister, and connects right between the eyes. Metal made by metal fans for metal fans. Hey Stupid! From 1991, here's Alice Cooper's Hey Stupid, the follow-up to the massively successful Trash album. Hey Stupid stomped onto Headbangers Ball with $1 million video at a time when that was still the normal thing to do, and it proved that regardless of decade, Alice Cooper can ram it home again and again. This was a veritable who's who of metal at the time, with a guest list at the party that included Ozzy Osbourne, Nikki Sixx, Mick Mars, Joe Satriani, Slash, Steve Vai, and on and on and on. Perfectly penned tracks like the title cut and Feed My Frankenstein, which was also in Wayne's World, assembled with precision. Now, it may lack the manic immediacy and the raw energy of those early 70s Alice classics like School's Out, Killer, or $1 Billion Babies, but it fit in perfectly at the time. Alice remained relevant, and it still holds up today. And Friday Music did an absolutely fantastic job with this reissue. It sounds fantastic. Now, from 1985, here's a band I honestly didn't know that much about, but I mean, based on the cover, yeah, you'd grab it too. This is the first of 2 albums from this band, never released in the United States, and originally released only as a 500 copy run. 500 copies on a tiny and quickly bankrupt label. Originals, as you'd expect, they're naturally rare and hensteed and stupid pricey. This is a 2008 equally limited reissue on Denmark-based label ARG Records. Driving and simple, top flight, last breath of new wave of British heavy metal when extinction for that very genre was imminent. Solid, but not overly polished production. Again, if you know that sound, that last wave of new wave of British heavy metal, you know what it sounds like. Sharp solos, punching British bass lines, strong vocals, ham-fisted and wickedly reminiscent of the equally excellent, if not slightly superior, We Stand to Fight from Virtue. Thankful to not only add this one and its Hanna-Barbera cover art to the collection, but a minty fresh copy at that? Oh, hell yeah. And so on we go down into the last couple. Another album, as with the next one that I've had forever, from 1972, here is Deep Purple's Machine Head. Everybody's familiar with this album. If you're not familiar with this album, get familiar with this album. eBay, Amazon, your local library, flea market, yard sale, garage sale, find one, get one, listen to it, dig it, love it. This is album number 6 from my favorite Deep Purple lineup. Something about Ian Gillan on vocals with Purple, man, it just does not get any better. What this is and why it was picked up is because it's an original quadraphonic or quadradisc copy. Now, I just didn't have one. When you open with Highway Star, proto-speed metal, a full decade before the term was even coined, anything that follows has no chance of competing. Divorce attorneys can't make opening arguments that strong. Sequenced perfectly, with chasers like Maybe I'm a Leo and Pictures of Home, which pare it back and blues rock your socks off. Track for track, this is easily a contender for Purple's best album ever. Not my particular favorite, but a contender for it. I can live without ever hearing Smoke on the Water on the radio again. Ugh. But when spinning the album end to end and as part of the overall experience, man, damned if it doesn't still just work. Essential listening, a sweet find in outstanding condition, and a welcome addition to the collection. The last one is really no surprise. From 1981, this is Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Madman. It's an album that I've owned on just about every format since it was practically new, and it's another one where it's just not possible to own enough copies. From different pressings, from exotic pressings, to reissues, to originals, I have quite a few of these in the collection. However, it's a no-brainer when it turns up in nice shape, but when it's got 1A stampers, and therefore a true first pressing, then there's just no two ways about it. This is the Ozman's second solo album, and for me personally, it's tied with No Rest for the Wicked as my personal favorite Ozzy solo album. Randy, Rudy, Tommy, Ozzy tear it to shreds. And 3 decades later, the album may as well be retitled Ozzy's Greatest Hits. Now, that said, and that aside, those that are familiar with it know that there's hieroglyphics on the cover here. And so, bonus points if you know what those mean. And don't go cheating and Googling them either. This is the stuff that kept us entertained for hours as teenagers. Use your imagination. Don't let the internet drain it from you. And that's it, y'all. There you go. Another month behind us, another stack out of the inbox on the turntable, and the cycle continues. So we'll see you in the next update. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have one. Thanks as always for taking the time out of your day to catch this, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.